Hello and welcome to the Apotheosis Scanning and Bookmarking Video 101. This video is to do two things. 1. Teach you how to scan if you don't know how. Or 2. Teach you how bookmarking in our corporation works and the scheme we use to do it, and a good method to do so. If you're already familiar with scanning, please skip to this point in the video linked now. After jumping in a system for the first time, the very first thing you should do is bookmark the other side of the hole. For whatever reason, if you have to warp off, you should have it saved to warp back to. After you've bookmarked the other side of the hole, the first thing you should do is drop your probes and give the whole system, at least near the center, a good scan. This will give you a good starting place to scan down the rest of the signatures. At least a lot of them to begin with. Another tip, every time you press Analyze, which you can press B to do, also press V at the same time. Press B and V, you will scan your probes and do a D-scan at the same time to be safe. Another thing you can do while beginning to scan the system is give the location you're at a scan to begin with as well. That will save you from having to scan down one sig entirely. You can now just know the sig of the bookmark or the wormhole that you're on. After you've confirmed the wormhole that you're on, it's as simple as right-clicking, edit the location, and placing the new sig. As you continue to scan, a nice tip is double-clicking on the map, and you can horizontally or vertically place your camera to easily align your probes to scan. Using Alt scroll wheel is a good method to make your probes scan a larger or smaller area. As you're scanning down the system, you're going to come across things that you don't care about. For instance, most of the time you're probably just going to be searching for wormholes. When you come across a site that's not completely scanned but you know what it is, like this gas site, skip it and go on to the next site. I'll show you what we do with the rest of those later. Now that you have another wormhole scanned down, you should warp to it at range. As you're on warp, continue scanning the system. Find another sig, align your probes, and don't waste time, keep scanning. Now that you've landed on grid with the new wormhole, there's some things you need to know. Look at the wormhole's information. There's 4 pieces of information you want to know here. Where does the wormhole lead? To high sec, to low sec, null security, or to somewhere else in wormhole space? Is it decaying? Is it going end of life? Has the stability been reduced? Has it gone critical? And how big of ships can go through it? Can only frigates go through? All of this information should be reflected on the bookmark if needed. Right-click the wormhole on the grid from your overview. Never save a wormhole bookmark from your probe scanner. Always save from the overview. With this information known, continue scanning the entire system, preferably from A to Z to make it easy, until all the signatures are known and wormholes bookmarked. While scanning the system, sometimes you might not know what wormhole you're on grid with. If you're just warped to a new one and you were scanning down another sig, sometimes it can get confusing. An easy way to check is to just right-click the one you think it is in the overview and it will say align to, as opposed to saying warp to. Now that you know, you're sure that this is the wormhole you want to make a bookmark of, you can bookmark it with the correct signature. Make sure to look at the information, make sure it's not EOL, make sure it's not a frig hole like this one. Small ships can pass through. This will now be labeled with the words frig. And welcome to the next part of the video. Now that you have the entire system scanned down, the first thing you should do is take all of this information and paste it into Pathfinder. I told you earlier You don't have to scan everything all the way down in the system as long as you know what it is. If you're not using gas sites, don't worry about scanning it down. Just get the wormholes. To paste it all into Pathfinder, press Ctrl A to select everything, Ctrl C to copy. Bring over Pathfinder, find the system that you're in, make sure that's the one that's selected, choose Signature Reader, paste it in with Ctrl V. This is important because if you or your corp mates or alliance mates are doing something in this system and a new SIG pops up, it will be easy to distinguish just by looking on here and comparing it to what's in space. Also, if there's a corporation in your alliance that doesn't have the bookmarks, it's simple for them to see which SIGs have the wormholes and they can scan just those down. Since you are bookmarking each wormhole along the way as you are scanning your system, your bookmarks folder should look something like this. I'll get to our bookmarking scheme in just a moment. Feel free to recall your probes now that you have everything scanned down. Go ahead and warp to the first bookmark that you don't have labeled yet. Warp to 0, because you're jumping through. As you land on your hole, before you jump through, you should make sure that you have Pathfinder open. Pathfinder, of course, auto-populates whatever system you jump into. You can use that information to set your bookmark once you come back and find out what it is. As you should always do, the first thing, bookmark the other side of the wormhole. Now will be a good time to go over our bookmarking scheme for our corporation. Feel free to open our corporation bulletins to see what Dal has posted. It is simply the 3 letters of the signature, followed by a space, bracket, space, the system class, followed by the J number. After that, you might show in parentheses whether the hole is EOL, frigate sized, crit, reduced, whatever it may be. Also keep in mind, there should be an asterisk placed in the front of the bookmark for any hole that leads back to Gargantua. This will provide an easy bookmark to click if you're trying to burn back home. Now that we've seen in Pathfinder what system we're in, C4J133358, it's safe to jump back into the hole we were in prior and edit that bookmark. Now that we've returned back to the system we initially started scanning, we should edit the bookmark that we have to reflect the system we just found. Do that before you warp off so you don't click the wrong bookmarks. After you've gone through your system and you've jumped through each hole to populate on Pathfinder, and you've come back through to edit each hole to reflect which system each hole leads to, your bookmarks folder will look something like this. Each one beautifully showing what each wormhole leads to. This should actually show Panther, since this system goes back to Panther. Since there's an asterisk at the top, it's easy to get home. Note, I am in a cruiser-sized class, so I can't actually fit through frig holes. If you come across a system that has question marks on the bookmark tag, you should be careful on either side. It's probably not bookmarked. Don't just warp off and assume the person who found it saved the other side. Thanks for watching. Happy bookmarking. Fly safe.